Good morning, good evening, and welcome to a new series I'm doing here in creative mode. I can fly. This is amazing. I love it. But here in creative mode, what we're going to be doing is building, and I'm going to show my build process, and that's the goal of this series. And it allows us to build more unique things that aren't related to our single player worlds or any of our multiplayer worlds that we play on, any of the servers we play on. No, this is just single player, creative, fun time building. And today I'm going to do some fun stuff to determine how we build, like what kind of style we're doing. And if you have any ideas on types of styles I should do or any ways I can randomize the style that I do on the days, let me know in the comments. I am open to suggestions. Today we are going to be heading to a random point on the map generator. So let's go. Now, I already did this, but my capture window, because I'd never record my browser windows, my capture window wasn't properly set up. So you would only see like this top corner here. I think you can see my cursor, and that just wasn't good. So we already chose California, and you can call me a cheater and all that, but we'll use this another day and it'll give me something that's a little bit further from my own home. Okay, so the pin was equidistant between like San Francisco, the Bay Area, and like Reno, Carson City, but you know, no offense. I used to live in Vegas, so no offense to people in Carson City and Reno, but I think I'm going to choose to do something reminiscent of San Francisco. So when I think of San Francisco, I've driven past it a bunch, but I've never been there. But I think of the really steep streets, you know, the really hilly terrain. And that's something that could be really cool to convey in Minecraft, I think. Building at an angle can be very difficult. So if I can explain the way I go through it, maybe it can be some inspiration to you as well. So inspiration is going to be a couple things. It's firstly going to be some of the old fashioned, you know, early 20th century kind of feel style of San Francisco street architecture, but also I was going to do something based on, I think it's called Lombard Street. It's like the wavy road. Yeah, you know it. When you think of San Francisco, you think of those kinds of windy or really hilly roads. And I think that gives us a really good opportunity to show what we know, show how we can build complex builds really beautifully in Minecraft. Right here is the first bit of road, and it was a little wide at first, so I thinned it out, but I used a pixel circle generator to generate the circle, and then this side is just one. Yeah, it's not that, you know, because that's how radiuses work, I guess. Radii. But the road's going to go around and around and be windy, and then we are going to add in the hill after we get this first construction built. And it doesn't matter how big we are because we're on a super flat world, so we can just take up all the room we want. All that means is that it takes longer for me to build it, which is fun. So now we have our road here, and it looks nice and wavy, and we'll have plenty of room for activities in between, you know, like pots and, you know, grass growing or whatever we want to put there. And then we'll have stuff on the side, row houses. And now we need it to go at an elevation. And I'm doing this out of wool because this isn't the final product, obviously, but I find it really easy if you sketch things out with wool first. Then you can see what's temporary and what's permanent once you start building. So now we have a plan here. We have the pavement all planned, and the hill is a bit random at times. Like some of these are longer than others, but that's okay because that's kind of what it is in real life. Hills are kind of erratic. But over here, we have the sidewalks on either side, and it is not exactly straight, but it is, again, it's a hill, so it's going to be a bit random. And then we'll have the townhouses, the row houses on the other side, and they're going to be at angles, hopefully. Right now, I want to focus on making this come to life. So we put in some greenery along the sides and in the medians right here in between the curvy road. And this is just temporary. This is just where we know we're going to put some green spaces. It is on a steep incline, so we're going to have to cover it. Maybe we add some trees, tall grass. You know, we really want it to blend in together and look really nice as you go up. For the road, I'm going for this type of theme, and we want to tell a story with all of our builds, but with the road. Most people, you know, use the middle of the road. Maybe if we're trying to convey it's a car, we should put certain stuff like where the wheels are. But I'm just going to say most of the road is used in the middle. And so our most worn one is packed mud. And then we mix in some of the granite, some of this granite, the polished granite, and then bricks on the outside where it's like the least worn. And so it's the most put together type piece. And then we also will need slabs like right along here. So that way we can just walk up and it's not like this huge difference in between the blocks. It's not a whole meter difference. So we're going to do that and go all the way up and check back in when that is finished. We have our road built along with the sidewalks, looking nice. I was going to change this. I'm not really liking how this is all tall greenery. I want to bring it down a little bit and maybe put some trees in, but that's an idea for later. Right now, we're going to focus on building buildings, the townhouses built along the row houses or whatever they're called, built along both sides. And so we're going to mark out areas for where they are and where each separate, property line starts, and then they're going to be on a hill. So it's going to be a little difficult to do. So I've now adjusted these little green patches, and don't worry, we're going to change the stone. This is just a temporary, so we know where our walls go. We're going to have other blocks there, and we're also going to have, I think, little trees in here just to block up what it looks like, so we just don't look at the stone going up. On the sides, we have two separate sections. I'm going to make a little bit of a front yard, like right here in the purple section, and then try to make little square houses here in the cyan, right? Yes. It is a little bit square, a little bit thin, but really what we're going for is just focused on this view right here. So really the backside doesn't matter, even though we're going to finish it mostly, probably, most likely, generally. Yeah, all of these, though, are in place. So now we just need to get the structures up. So now we have these structures with the front yards all constructed, and I turned them into duplexes, I guess, two of them together, because that made it skinnier and it gives more variety as we go through. We're not going to make them all look identical. So that just means more work for me, which I love. I love doing extra, but it will look cooler, which is really all that matters. And then for the front yards, just leading to the front doors, we have these cobblestone paths. We have just stuff for us to put trees down later. Maybe some of these go on the other side. That way they're not just a repeating path. And then we don't need trees in there, and we'll need tall bushes up the middle. We need some decor, but first we got to start with our duplex designs. So we're back and we have our first designed duplex looking thing over here. I want to keep them separate and not just have them blend in, at least for these first few. Making all these designs somewhat unique might be challenging. I think I can do pretty unique designs. This first one is quartz with pale oak. Yeah, strip pale oak and pale oak planks with the shelves. And we wanted to add in a little bit of color. I don't want this all to be white. So we added the light blue terracotta over here, which I think is a really nice color, contrasting with the red doors. I put black concrete behind the windows as well. Yes, behind that one too. That way you can't really see in, because if you go in, I'm not doing interiors for all of these. Are you crazy? You think I'm crazy enough to do interiors for all of this? No. We're just here for the sketch. And if you want to put interiors into your builds, you can do that. This is just, we're not doing that here. But now we have to do the rest of this side and see if we can come up with unique ideas for all of them. And we have something, at least. I don't know how I feel about all of these. The styles are a little bit wonky, but I did want to have them in different styles. I didn't want them to be just copy paste. So I did try to experiment with the styles, but I really liked the last two. And this is me. It's kind of like that meme with the dark house and then the light house right there. But not just the colors, but the styles, I think, really fit what I was going for. I did have other styles. I was going for different roof types, different color palettes. I did want to use like a different color palette for all of them, but I might use the same color palette when we go over to here. And as I'm thinking about them, I might change the yards, because I put a lot of work into these houses. I don't want to just cover them up with the tree. So maybe instead of having a tree inside, we just have a little garden or something. Maybe a tree up here. I don't know. Definitely have trees in the middle though. And we're back with 8 more townhouses. I think 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2, 8. Yes, 8 townhouses on this side. The designs are a little bit wonky at times, and they kind of mirror this side a little bit. Same palettes often. And I don't know how I'm feeling about all of the designs, but it took so much energy, like an effort to build these. You have no idea. I was expecting to do this project in a day, and it took about a week of inconsistent work. I've been busy, but also that's just a lot. I really like the ones at the end over here though, because they kind of match the ones at the end right here, right above my head. But these last 4 are all kind of different, but they have that same style, and I like that. Maybe if I was doing this again, I'd keep the same style all throughout. I don't know how I feel about all of these designs being so different. I thought that's something that would look cool, but it kind of, oh well. We also did all of these little gardens, and instead of putting in a tree, we just made 2 separate gardens, and they're all a little bit different. They're growing different things. They have different pots. This one is my favorite over here because it's the dark black house, and it's growing this goth flower, and they're a little bored. You know, they don't want to actually grow anything, so they just have ferns growing out of here, and, you know, they kind of unkept garden area. I thought that was cool. I'm trying to tell a story with all these things, and that leads me to the next most important thing of your builds, of any build, and that's doing the little details. This is my core design philosophy. I believe it's vital that you have the little things piece your builds together. You can be not completely sold on the main stuff of your build, but that's in essence just a blank canvas. What really shows that you put the time and effort into your build is doing all these little things, kind of like these gardens, but all throughout. So my plan is to put maybe a couple trees in these middle green gradients, whatever they're called, these little areas. I want to put green stuff in, and then I want to work the gradients and change the brickwork all throughout, add stone in these middle ones, add some mossy stone, mossy cobblestone, really fit this in. But basically, my design philosophy is that every block should have a place, and you should think about where everything goes and tell a story through that. So that is going to be our next step. You see the difference? I see the difference. I like it. Again, this is still the canvas phase. We're still missing the middle stuff, but I went through and I used this gradient to just kind of tell a story on all these walls. And I made it so tough is at the bottom, and then it's kind of followed in a pattern with cobblestone, andesite, and then stone brick at the very top. Most stone bricks along the sides and kind of weaving their way down, so stone bricks can kind of penetrate all the way down. But I did that because it still keeps the feel of bricks, of stone bricks, but it gives it more variance. And when it's behind trees and stuff, it's going to look real nice. Up on both sides, we put these bushes, and it's just a lot of different, what do we call it? Azalea. I was going to say acacia. Azalea bushes interspersed with some moss, with 2 tall ferns or grass. This one I accidentally removed when I was placing that. And then we put stairs along the side, matching whatever was underneath it. That way it can just flow together. It looks a little nicer. And in the backyards, or front yards, because these are the front, you know, I know my directions. In the front yards, we added the same stone texture to the walls. I kind of made more moss on the inside, especially on these ones. I don't know, trying to make it seem logical to the eye. But now we're missing our main thing, and that's all these middle things. I have 5 middle partitions, and we need to fill them up with stuff. So we're going to go for the big stuff first and then go small. Now, I find trees to be one of the hardest things to do in Minecraft, especially if you're building them in survival. Luckily in creative, it's a little bit easier, but still, these are pretty difficult things and takes a lot of finagling. So for this one, I looked up a reference of an elm tree. I thought that just a typical, you know, city tree. And I'm building up the canopy. So first I build this, the main trunk, and then I build all the little offshoots with fences. And that's my general plan. You can see me do it in survival. I've streamed it live a couple times in my survival world, but I'm debating if it's not too big especially for the first one right here. Or, well, second one, whatever. Just stop counting, you nerd. But I'm debating if it is too big because I don't want it to block the view of here. Although our frame of reference is something like up here. Like this is the money shot we're going for. So I don't think it's too big. It'll be fine. And then we can probably put one over here, and then keep these smaller ones for just plants and tall ferns or whatever. Now we need to find a good canopy that goes along with this. And I don't know what kind of leaves I'm going for. I'll have to think this one through. So these are our options that I'm considering. You can always use other ones. I'm considering first mangrove. Mangrove is like my old reliable. I've used them for some really cool looking trees in my single player world, and they give you really the sense of it flowing, I think, because they're very vertical. Next is azalea. And the problem with azalea, I think, is that it's a bit too yellow. I used it in my single player world, and it was just way too yellow when you use it in bulk. And it's nice for these bushes, but if you compare it to the mangrove, you compare it to the oak, it's just really yellow. I like my trees to be the dark green. You know, I really like the jungle grass type of green. And so I like my trees matching that. If we go to the jungle over here, I really like jungle leaves, except for these little like berry looking things. It would be so much better if it didn't have those yellow patches. That's good for some in between maybe, but not for the main bulk. So that just leaves us with oak. And oak is just old reliable, you know, typical, looks like a leaf, smells like a leaf, tastes like a leaf. It's a leaf. But I think we're going to go with oak on this one. I don't think the leaves are going to be as bulky and long as like a willow tree or something that we've built in the single player world. So we're going to go with oak. First pass we do just covers all the fence posts that we placed and all the fence gates that we placed like that. And it's going to look a little wonky. So it looks like this, and that's not quite the shape that we're going for a tree, and especially not like a city tree. This is supposed to be a city, like, so they're supposed to be pretty well manicured, I think. So what we're going to go through now is just a lot of subjective adding in, patching in stuff. Like I don't want to see this brown right here. I'll kind of patch that in. But the important part is that you give it a little bit of depth. So you're not going to cover it like this because that just doesn't look the same as this, which I think gives it a little better shape to it. That's just generally my rule of thumb. As I placed these leaves, some of them I added an extra space, I think like right here, maybe, I don't know. One of these, I added a couple extra spaces here, and I just do that generally just to convey a sense of depth, and it makes it easier as you go in later to make a shape out of it. So now we just got to make a little bit of a better shape out of it. It is going to be this two-pronged tree, but it is going to have a little better manicure. I think this is looking like a little better. It's still a little wonky, but I think it looks good, and it's important to always consider what angle you're looking from. So we will be looking at it from this angle, so make sure it looks good there, and the primary angle being somewhere up here. It's just going to look a little bit wonky, but from down here, I think it looks good. It still needs to fit in, I think. Also, maybe it's a bit weird having it go up like that. Maybe it'd be better if we did this, something like that. I don't know. I think we're going to keep it how it was. Let's get rid of the jungle. Yeah. Building like this, I think it'll be fine. A little wonky, but we'll blend it in, I think. Now we need to go to the other ones and get our trees in. Now we have our trees in, but they're looking a little bit lonely, I think. So we are going to need to come in and add bushes, my favorite. And we're going to have to add in flowers, tall grass, all the things that make this look unique and special. So now we need to go in and add all of our things. And I'm using peonies and lilac for color because it actually blends pretty well with this, the flowering azalea leaves, because it's all kind of pinkish. So I think that is going to look really nice when it's blended in with the other bushes and stuff. And that's more like it. It's all feeling really lived in. And I really worked hard on making this overgrowth grow over. Yes, that's the word. But I made all of this green stuff go onto the stone just to really blend it in. I didn't cover the street in it because I assume that there's cars or something, and that tells a story that there's, you know, cars trimming the bushes as it goes by or something. I don't know. You make up the rules. It's your world. You're living in it. But all of these bushes are placed, and I'm really liking it. I forgot to do part of it. Let's do that real quick. And there we go. Now we really wanted to go onto the stone bricks area so it can really blend in, but I think that's it. I think it's looking really nice, but there we go. We are done, and it was really exhausting, took a lot of work, but I'm really pleased with it. Actually, I think it looks really great. This is not a typical, I usually don't build in creative mode, and I usually don't build these kinds of styles. So it's really nice to test yourself and bring out the best thing you can build. If you want this world, maybe I can release a world download sometime maybe after this series, but I was planning on releasing one per day. It might have to be one per week because this took a whole week to do. Anyway, if you liked it, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll leave you with some cool outro stuff. Goodbye.